Well, hello, guys. Cheers. I want to thank those of you that said nice things and were supportive. The people that had to be self-righteous assholes. You're helping me on my way to atheism. As you guys know, I've never made a secret of it. I am at least half atheist because sometimes I look around at stuff and I go, "This is all fucking horseshit. I just don't believe the gods exist." I will tend back towards faith for a while, and then it will just be they don't exist. I don't think they do. And I will give you my reasons. So, if the gods exist, why can't they fucking control people and put a muzzle on them, right? A god we're expecting to protect us from COVID or being attacked by people in the middle of the night or anything else. They can't even put a fucking muzzle on people and make them act like decent human beings because I have to kick people off this channel all the time. No, it's cam girls that are also being hookers, so yeah, great. The gods can't even stop that. Mysterious, isn't it? It's like they don't exist. And I had a dream last night, and it was a weird-ass dream, and I woke up this morning, and instead of coming on excitedly and telling you, wow, I had this dream, I'll even describe it to you, because it doesn't mean anything. Um, in the first part of the dream, I'm in this kind of giant white painted building. It's huge. It's built of, like, I guess cinder block. It's painted white. And there's all these shelves like there would be in an antique store, but like made out of tables, like card tables, and they have white plastic pinned all over them. So how much more of a representation of heaven can we get? And there's all this carnival glass and everything, and it's my family's house, and I'm in the basement, and there's all this beautiful carnival glass and everything, and we're not opening a store. We just like to decorate like this unironically. And as I'm walking through, I'm seeing a giant woodstock that my mother had and a couple other things. So it's like stuff from the past. And I hear these voices arguing, and for some reason I think they're Christians. I don't know why. And they're arguing, and the son went and did something, and the father is yelling at him, "We don't do that. We don't." I forget, like, we don't associate with those people or something else. Then it changed, and I'm walking up out of a dark building. It's like, you know how in your mind you can be in something and then have like a bird's eye view simultaneously because our brains work that way? Um, and I'm both walking out and being kind of tall, yet I'm being carried by a gentleman all in gray. Again, this dream doesn't mean anything, it's how our brains work. And camera's challenging me. And I'm both walking out and I'm being carried by this extremely tall gentleman. And I come out of this building and I'm getting this bird's eye view of the building. And hold on, guys, 1 second. Let me fix the fucking camera. Okay, now it's crooked, but it's fucking running. That's the point. And, I fixed it myself. Anyhow, with the dream, come up out of this thing and I'm getting this bird's eye panoramic view even as I'm walking. And it's a huge low brick building. It's either a church or a school, but there's no windows on this fucking thing. It's weird. It's like dark red brick and it's built low to the ground, like 1 story. Absolutely no fucking windows on this thing. There's like a porch, like those porches they had on your high school. Every high school was built the same damn way, and there would be like an overhang. There's one like that. That's why I'm thinking it's maybe a school, but I was brought out of the basement, the darkness, whatever, into the light, and there's this guy standing there, I guess supposed to be Odin. And he has miniature Clydesdales, like 7 or 8 or 9 of them, and as I'm walking towards him, they're all still, and then all of a sudden they burst into life, and they're all running around, and they're all, like, charging around, and I'm kinda, like, freaked out, because even if they're miniature Clydesdale, who the fuck wants to get kicked by a horse, right? And then they run towards the school, and there's 2 kind of monsters with him. You would think they'd be wolves, because this had to be the old man. But they're like wolves, but they're cats, but there's something else at the same time. And I'm like, this doesn't fucking make any sense because it's like every religion poured into one. And he's sending them in, right, to this whatever. There's also another part of this dream where I'm hiding in my house with my family that doesn't exist. And, there's this thing out in the darkness, and we're watching this screen like an electrocardiogram, but it's like a screen for whatever's out there in the darkness. And every time it kills something out in the darkness, there's a surge of electricity. The fucking hell. My brain was downloading and throwing out stuff because I had spent a lot of time reading some pagan stories. Because, like I told you, the inner atheist just comes out swinging every time, and it's like, this is horseshit. Don't you see how this is all horseshit? And I have stronger evidence than dreams not making sense and everything else. It's just, gods can't even keep people civil. Gods can't even keep a modicum of control on people. Gods can't keep the self-righteous people that want to self-flagellate and be god slaves off the channel. They can't keep the hussies off the channel. It's like they don't exist, or they don't care, or they're not powerful enough. It's one of the three I'm thinking don't exist. And I got up and I'm talking to Odin, and Odin makes Odin promises like he does, like, I'm going to get a wolf today as proof. Proof, right? Proof Odin not only exists, but this relationship is important, right? And I thought, Odin proofs never work because it's maybe like, I don't know, I'm talking to myself. I was a writer, and the thing is, they tell you it used to be a thing. If you were a writer of fiction, if you were going to become a pagan writer, this was the rule at one time. Nobody fucking follows it, but it was the rule at one time. You had to willingly give up creating fiction, because going from creating fiction in a book to creating a fiction you live in real life, it's really easy to do. And as a writer, you already have fertile imagination. And the process for creating a character in a book and creating an imaginary character in your head you call a god that speaks to you, the same exact process. So, you're supposed to give that up to keep yourself from contaminating your religious work. It's supposed to just be a thing. It's known, especially in writers, that especially if you're a fiction writer or a fantasy writer, you'll just contaminate everything from that point forward with your fallacies because you're letting your imagination get away from you. And I just, I looked around at 2020 and I'm looking at COVID, and even though Odin likes to say that, well, God isn't doing anything, I said, yeah, you're not doing anything either. None of you are. It's like none of you exist. And I know that sounds horrible to people that still have faith, but I've always struggled with mine because we have science now. We have science, so we know that probably no God anywhere ever created us. And, I do veer between, oh, that's horrible. How could I say that about the gods? And I'm like, no, we have science. We know evolution exists. None of these gods created us. And why are there so many different religions? If the gods exist, okay, let's say the gods exist. Let's see if I take the argument out to all the gods exist. How come they didn't tell us all these other gods existed? How come they don't share well? How come they seem so problematic? How come people act absolutely crazy in their service? I said, I just don't believe anymore. I got up and I had to kick somebody off the channel that absolutely bitched me out because they said I was expecting something unfairly. No, I was being logical. People that understand science also understand logic. Logically, the way actual religions work is that if you put into service and you put in faithfulness, you are rewarded. That's how this fucking shit works. That's how real religions work. You might want to attend church sometime, sweetie. So, it's it's how religions work. You put in the service, you put in the time, the promise is there that the God will be there and have your back. That's how actual religions work. You put in the good service, you will get the cookie. Sometimes their God says yes, no, or wait, but you always get the cookie. If you're not getting the cookie, if you're doing all your repair work, if you're begging your gods, I need a new this, I need a new that, and you're always going out and doing it yourself, it might be because your gods don't exist. So I thought, this is kind of highly irrational, because if gods do exist, and gods do say marry people, have personal relationships with people, shouldn't there be some fucking ground rules that the gods themselves made up that they're fairly consistent about? No, doesn't seem to be. And I'm like, it doesn't seem like the gods exist, because now we have this whole, flotilla of young people coming onto the interwebs and claiming to have these relationships that they're not even old enough to have had relationships this long, or they're not even old enough to have the relationship be anywhere near appropriate. And I thought it's almost like the gods don't exist and we all made them up in our hysteria, or we were all brainwashed up into believing them. And I said, I'm just more and more, the atheist in me is coming out because of this bullshit. They can't put a muzzle on their people. They can't fucking control people. I'm like, it's like they're either pathetically weak, they don't exist, or they're not going to help us when we need actual help. I have the camera fixed, even though it's fucking crooked as hell now, because I fixed it myself. I didn't wait around for God to do it. I'll eventually get stuff on this house fixed because I will fix it myself. I'm done waiting around for a God that doesn't exist to fix anything in my life. And I'm noticing a lot of people my age and older are just kind of going, I can't do this fantasy anymore because the rest of you ruined it. Why couldn't you have all acted nicely and we could have all kept the fantasy together? But humans are a shitty species. Humans are a horrible, shitty species. No, there are asshole atheists too. But it's more and more the atheist in me is coming out. And I watched, I went and watched somebody's video about why they became an atheist. And, when you still want to hold on to your beliefs, it's hard to see. It is hard to see. But then you're like, you're right. If we would allow any of the fantastical stuff in Christianity to work, every religion works. But any silly religion anybody makes up on their own works too. I could say this is Jesus Christ Superstar and you couldn't fucking debate me because it's my religion, man. You see where I'm going with this, and you're saying, well, that's a bit extreme. I had a stalker on this channel that was telling me that Loki is Jesus Christ. He's the only one true God, and every other god in existence is a demon that's going to be sent to hell. That is fucking insane. That's the definition of insanity. That's why you don't plug and play. Pick a religion, stick with it. If you can't stick with and be happy with any religion, and you're having doubts, try atheism. And the thing is, I'm not losing anything, because like I said, I realized, it kind of looked back as I was thinking this through last night. And I've been into atheism land many a time before in my life, because it just doesn't make sense. Is that anything I do, the altars, I did. No god created any of those altars. Any of the stuff I did this year, I fucking had my own back, man. I took care of myself. I took care of myself through a pandemic. Me. Just me. No god. I never once had anything show up. I've had coincidences happen, and that's a fucking problem. They're coincidences, and we attribute them to a deity, right? My friends may or may not be taking me somewhere this coming week, and because of the day it was going to happen, I was going to attribute to a certain god, and then I'm like, that's awful fucking convenient, because considering the few things that this deity I give them credit for, there's an even bigger list of things they never came through on, including simple proofs, right? Like, if you logically exist, please do this thing. I'm not asking you to jump through hoops, but if you actually fucking exist, please demonstrate it, and then I will have the faith required to go forward. And, it started in the Bible, being a Catholic too, because you're not supposed to put God to the test. Like, either God is so thin-skinned and can't stand being challenged or asked to prove himself, or he doesn't exist. And the more I think about it, it's just like, ignore the man behind the curtain. It's like, yeah, don't ask God to prove he exists, because he's not there. He's not going to prove he exists. Not because he's almighty and offended, but because he literally doesn't exist and he can't prove his existence. So I'm discounting the dream. I'm discounting any and all experiences I have with the gods. And I'm like, well, in good news, that means I still have a fertile imagination to still be able to be a writer in some sense. And, in even better news, I don't have to waste a single penny anymore on any kind of devotions. I will still keep the channel. I may tend back towards, some kind of theism, but I doubt it. It's just, I've had my doubts, guys. I've had religious doubts for years. It's how many petty people run around and pull bullshit in all religions. They do it in Christianity, they do it in paganism. They go fucking roar up to you and say shit in your face, and they'll call you crazy if your delusions don't match up with their delusions of imaginary friends. And I'm like, you know what? And I'm aware I called someone crazy, but we have standards in our craziness, yeah? It's okay to believe in the way we believe, because at least we have books to go to. But when you start mixing stuff and blending stuff together, we then call that insanity. I'm like, well, what if we're just all crazy? What if none of the gods exist? What about that? I've never seen a god prove their existence once. I never have. I have said I had, but you know, it's scary to let go of your belief system. It's scary to say there are no gods, nobody has my back, I gotta handle this on my own. But then that means all the things I've attributed to gods in my life are actually me taking care of me, so I don't lose anything. So, you know, just humans can pat themselves on the back because they helped me prove the gods didn't exist, especially that bitch that chewed me out this morning because she told me basically she must be a god slave. We're supposed to serve with absolutely no intention of getting anything back. Fuck you, that's not how religion works. You serve a god, they take care of you. That's the fucking agreement. If you want to debase yourself and humiliate yourself and be a slave to your imaginary friend, go right on ahead. I really don't care. It's why I'm an atheist. There are too many dickheads running around ruining everything, and you know, it's like I just don't believe. Because if the gods exist, why don't they stop it? There's, you know, versions of that. If your god can't stop things, maybe he doesn't exist, maybe he doesn't want to, maybe he's cruel. You know, there are logical tests for it. So our gods failed the logical test for me. You know, why can't they prevent people from being dickheads? I don't go out looking for drama. I don't ever go on anybody's channel. I don't ever comment on anybody's blog. I don't ever look for a fucking fight, and yet they come to me. I'm like, I'm not getting back, you know, I'm not reaping what I'm sowing. I'm getting to see what an unfortunate species humans are, and humans are real pricks. So I'm like, I don't have any faith because I deal with humans on a daily basis. So sorry for the fucking tilted camera, but I fixed it myself because we're gonna live in atheism land from now on. Hey, if you want to stay with the channel, great. Maybe I'll think of things to talk about, but I don't think I'm gonna go back to having any faith. It's like, I think they're all imaginary things. I did make a bet with my imaginary friend Odin that he can get me a wolf something today. I will have faith. Not a fucking wolf pin, not a fucking wolf video, not all the fucking butterflies that are falling out of everywhere because YouTube runs on algorithms. And if I mention butterflies, turkeys, or fairy princesses, chances are YouTube algorithms will give me videos with that. Yeah, that's how it works. Um, you know, it's a thing of I don't have faith, and I'm not going to get that wolf today, and that's going to be at least enough scientific proof for me. Um, it was kind of hard watching somebody take down essential oils and everything else too, but I'm like, you know, personal experience isn't proof, they say, and you know, it's at least not scientific proof because it hasn't been rigorously tested in a lab. That's what they mean by scientific proof. If I use like lavender oil and I calm down, great. Well, let's go test it in the lab and see if it really does that. Is it placebo effect? Then that's fine. It's placebo effect, but you can't then claim lavender itself has a calming effect. If you can't scientifically prove it in the lab, it doesn't work. So, yeah, the inner atheist and the inner scientist came out and were like, you know what? Don't believe. Look at COVID. Look at over 200,000 people dead. If any one god wanted to stop this, they have done nothing. So, sorry guys, there goes the faith. But I've done this before. I've gone to atheism land before, and it's funny when you first go into atheism land, everything you see is going to remind you of the gods. So I'm going to have a hellish 2 or 3 weeks crying my eyes out because I will see every single thing that will remind me of whatever god I was working with. It's just, it seems to be a phenomenon we all go through. But then it calms down and you don't see anything because they're not there. Your mind is not fueling that imaginary friend anymore, is the closest thing I can guess. So, you know, I know that's gonna make people angry, but you know, it's kind of like I've always had my doubts. I've always had my doubts. And if you're gonna hold up Neil Gaiman is an atheist. He's an atheist. So if you're gonna hold up American gods, he's an atheist. It was kind of like, sure, believe it all. Yeah, see if I care. Believe all the gods exist. Go ahead, see if I care, because they don't. You know, it's all the people that are writing these stories about these gods, like these summer camps and everything. They're atheists. They don't believe these gods exist. Why do you think they're using them? If they believe these gods exist, do you seriously think they take a chance of incurring their wrath? They're atheists, honey. They don't believe. So, if you like what you see, like, comment, and subscribe. I'm actually kind of happy because it means now instead of waiting around for a magical sky daddy or a magical invisible friend to fix shit, I will fix it myself. And if it's not fixed, it's because things tend to not magically fix themselves. So, I will see you guys later. Bye bye.